I've had a few questions from owners about how to use the yield factor in the FoodCostChef Calculator when adding ingredients. In the tutorial videos, you'll often see me using 95% as my go-to number, which effectively raises the cost of the ingredient. This whipping cream, for example, costs $7.59 per liter, but after applying the 95% yield, the food cost is $7.99. Why? Why do I do this? Here's the easiest way to remember why and how to use this yield factor at the ingredient level. Just ask yourself, how much of this product will make it to my customer's plate? When you ask that question, you'll know the answer is never going to be 100%. In this case, you have to factor in spillage, spoilage, poor measuring, burning, staff drinking, whatever. So the 95% represents over a year how much I will lose of this product before it ever goes into a recipe. You can go higher, you can go lower, but even in a very controlled, HACCP production system, there will be product loss. So this yield factor has very little to do with cooking and shrinkage. That can be handled when you write your recipe. For example, this is a base recipe for cooked chicken meat. I start with 5 pounds of chicken breasts and 5 pounds of chicken thighs cooked in a combi oven. My yield for this recipe is only 8.5 pounds due to shrinkage. But each of these ingredients have their own yield loss too, even things like olive oil, salt, and the meat itself. That's 2 places where you account for yield loss: when you acquire the ingredient and when you process the ingredient in a recipe. Now let's look at a situation where an ingredient might be less than 95% yield. I will let the incredible Chef Preston here at New York's Lure Seafood Restaurant show you.
We're known for our oysters. So I spend about 30 minutes a day eating oysters. Yeah, I eat about 20 oysters a day. Oysters for breakfast. And I do this twice a day. I kind of just go through all the oysters. I pick a couple at random. The way that we keep the quality up here is by tasting. Everybody tasting. If you don't taste, you'll never know. And so we taste everything all the time. This is Pebble Beach. The chef tastes oysters every day to make sure that they're getting the best quality ever.
I don't think 95% will be a low enough yield to cover these staffed tastings he's talking about. I mean, he just ate half a dozen right there. So I have a price for local Malpeques oysters at $72 a case for 100 oysters. For this ingredient, I'll put the yield at 85%, meaning 15% of all the oysters I buy for the year will never get to the customer's plate. Let me just correct the supplier for this ingredient so I can add hooked as my source. Okay, now I can create a 6 oyster appetizer menu item. Pretty simple. My cost for the oysters themselves are $5.08, and the menu item is $5.48 food cost. With a price of $20, our food cost is going to be 27.4%. Now let's go back to the oyster ingredient and remove the yield. You can see that the cost as served is exactly what we paid for it at 72 cents per oyster. This is automatically reflected in the oyster cost and the recipe, which dropped 3 points, and that looks good on paper, but that's a fairy tale, isn't it? And this is the problem with not bothering to account for a realistic ingredient yield right from the get-go. Sure, that food cost looks better, but you're never going to get there. And if all of your menu is like this, good luck. You'll be so far off your estimates that, the management meetings will be taking up wondering how you f***ed up this month and last month and the month before that. You've just got to get ahead of your numbers so they come in better than expected, not worse. Chefs, I hope that shows you how a tool like the FoodCostChef Calculator can help you get your food cost under control. Remember, it's only good food if the math works.